So I love that term, think tank.
Think tank.
I mean, you know what a think tank is? Like, how's a think tank go, Jim?
Yeah, they got cancel culture nowadays. You gotta watch what you say. It's getting real scary out here.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't know if I can take the conversation here, but we might as well. It's the Rethink Tank. Looks like you had a little bit too much to think here in the Rethink Tank.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And thanks for joining us again. Today, we have a very special guest, and we're going to be, waking up America. This is time to unite. And what better person to do that than the CEO and founder of the No Sleeves Network, coming from the T.O.C, a podcast that explores the minds of veterans and how they communicate with one another and the BS that they talk about in their everyday lives. Featuring 3 Army veterans, the T.O.C bring you irreverent comedy mixed with raw emotion and the veteran community. Also, make sure you check out the Linemen Lounge, something that Doug and I here could very much relate to. The Linemen Lounge is a sports podcast hosted by Carlisle. He's a family man, Army veteran, and a youth sports coach who loves talking sports. He is also joined by his co-host Stanford. But today I want to introduce, joining me, my guest, Michael Carlisle. How you doing, my friend?
I'm hanging in there, man. It's a pleasure to be here. When you emailed me, I was very excited. We don't have a lot of people that reach out about the T.O.C. Our flagship is kind of the No Sleeves Network. So when you reached out about the T.O.C, I was incredibly excited, and I know the other guys over there at the NSN, they were equally excited about seeing how this turned out.
Well, and I gotta say, the guy has guts walking in here still with his Browns jacket. We've got our football show. I stopped wearing Brown stuff, I think, like 3 episodes ago. I gotta hand it to you.
I gotta stay with the Browns. I will always root for the Browns, even though I don't necessarily like what that organization is doing right now. I will forever be a fan. I will always root for the Browns. There will never be a time where I'm like, not today. It'll be brown and orange every Sunday. However, I may be screaming at the television, particularly at Deshaun Watson.
That's it. That's the only person we're screaming at.
Well, the offensive line sucks too, but that's
but also, I gotta say, I think we're seeing social justice play itself out. Like, I think people are just like, hit him, go get him, go get him.
No, I mean, these guys are all professionals. They all want to win. Their dollars are
affected by this.
Yeah, exactly. So I got to think that everybody wants to do their best.
You'd hope.
But not everybody's.
Does he look like he wants to do his best?
No, there's a lot of guys that didn't look like they want to be here. Mari Cooper, for all the great things that he did not look like he wanted to really be there at the end. And I, kind of understand it. I don't want to talk about that. Nick Chubb's coming back tomorrow.
That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
I was going to bring it right back to
win or lose. I don't really care what happens.
The heart and blood of Cleveland is coming back. And honestly, just the fact that he's coming back, I don't even care at what capacity. Pay that man just for the sake of the love of Cleveland, especially if you're going to go pay creeps what you do on that roster as well. But I want to, so first, what got you into podcasting? Because I want to bring it back to a Rethink Tank topic that I think we'll both enjoy.
Gosh, so what got me interested in doing this? I'd always loved sports. This kind of all stemmed and started from my love for sports. I wanted to be in sports media, but I wasn't anywhere around that circle. I was working as a government contractor at the time. I had spent 8.5 years in the Army, got out, and was working at the flight school for drones down in Fort Huachuca in Arizona. And it became tiresome. I was like, this is not fun anymore. I didn't really enjoy doing that job anymore. Plus, the company I work for, and I don't know you guys have any sponsors, but if you don't mind, I'm going to take a shot at one.
Please.
Fuck Textron. Textron is a terrible company. I'm sorry for dropping the F-bomb
this early in the show. Our sponsor. Oh,
they were awful. And as
what do they do?
They treated their section of employees pretty.
No. What is the company? Like, what do they?
Textron is
they sell marshmallows.
They're a defense contract company.
Gotcha.
That is,
oh yeah. Well, boo.
Yeah. Well, listen. Not all defense contract companies are bad.
True.
Textron was not great. I did not enjoy working for them, and I told everybody that as I left, because there was another company that was there that could have, brought more people on. Didn't happen. I left. I'm happy that I left, but getting to find something that I enjoyed doing every time I did it that's really kind of what started it, and then it just evolved from there. It was
Okay.
sports. It was just me, some clown talking behind a microphone, kind of like what I'm doing right now. There was no video element, and as it grew and I got more interested in it, and more people started to be interested in what I was doing, I had Stanford, my partner, kind of come on, join me on the Linemen Lounge, and then from there it evolved into the No Sleeves Network. We have the Talk. We have additional people like the Vanilla Gorilla, who does food reviews. We have blogs. We have a graphic designer who has done all of our graphic design work for us. So we are growing, we are evolving, and it all kind of started from the desire from my love of sports. And also I think my wife was like, I need you to stop telling me what's going to happen on the TV before it happens. Just go do this and try to see if you can do it for real.
I love that. I love that. So you were predicting the chaos coming ahead of us. Is that what?
I have been right about a lot of things, and I don't necessarily love being right about a lot of things sometimes as it deals with sports, especially when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. But yeah, I feel like I have a little bit of a knack for it. I've done okay.
I can appreciate that. So the reason I asked that is because, an overdrawn point that we've talked about a lot the last couple episodes has been part of the passion that started this whole project was the removal of Chief Wahoo. And when you had come in, you've got your Guardians hat on.
Yes.
When we talk about the Indians and we talk about the team, because at first I refused to even, I was done. It was like, all right, we're getting rid of it all, then I'm done. And the reason being, and it was nothing beyond the fact that you've built this franchise that has been a staple for the community for so long. I mean, your dentist, your mechanic, we all share this one thing. And taking those memories with your dad at the baseball game, your whole life, and projecting the claim that any bit of it is rooted in hate and came from a place of hate or mockery or shame, that I thought was more disgusting and despicable than anything else in this dialogue. And then when I removed myself, I saw even my dad still would watch it. I was not giving you the views. You vote with your views, you vote with your dollars. And I wasn't going to do it. And there's still people within my circle that don't. And I've come to learn that's not the win either. Mm-hmm. Because the truth is the only reason we support these things anyway, like you can't make this isn't the higher power. This isn't greater than your moral community and everything else. But it's a important part of our culture. So you can't totally cast it away, but it shouldn't become everything. There's a healthy balance. And when you realize what makes this thing so special, what made the Indians so special was that bit of community you shared with your neighbors, and you're watching them, they're all still enjoying it. They're just leaving you behind. So my internal protest is that I'll never buy a Guardians thing ever, and I'll only ever refer to them as the Indians.
Preach it, brother. Preach it.
So I will I want to hear your response, because there was like a knee-jerk reaction. So Doug, click to yourself. Doug, show him your shirt. So Doug walks in and I go, you got your quasi Reds shirt on.
Which I forgot about, and now that makes me sad. So thank you for ruining the shirt for me.
But I only say that because, so then Doug responds and he goes, well, I really don't totally love this shirt because it's got the Guardian C on it. And it had a reaction. Mm-hmm. So you were like, so what flush out those thoughts. Like, I'm curious.
So for me, I don't give a shit what the team is called.
Fair.
By the way, am I allowed to curse on this show?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, truthfully,
I've already done it. This will be the second time. I want to make sure I'm not going to run it too much.
Let's lay the code for the new listeners. Maybe the New Sleeves Network is bringing us, but I don't care what you say. The sad part is we are in about 2-3 weeks where this show of real dialogue and conversation is oppressed, like significantly. So the I don't care what you say beyond. Try to say blue team or red team.
Okay.
Orange man or camel lady. Those are the two. We keep it within that box because you'd be amazed. Even Doug, our last episode, I tried. We can't promote it. It is election. It's a campaign ad. It's like
Wait,
we don't even say their names.
Say anything.
We can't win. So for the next month, we're in timeout.
Gotcha.
So the only thing I ask is try to avoid the words that would allow YouTube to put us in timeout.
Gotcha.
But you can say bullshit because it's all bullshit.
Well, yes, it is all bullshit. So I guess onto the Guardians thing. I don't care. I don't give a shit what they're called. They could be the giant purple dildos, and I'm gonna go and I'm gonna watch.
But I think more people would have.
I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Okay, come on. Give me a sweatshirt with one of them.
The
on
giant
it.
purple dildos would have been a hilarious name. It would not have gone over very well. However, I think Rob Manfred at the wheel probably would have let it go through because he's asleep. But the Guardians thing, it doesn't bother me. I don't care what the name is. It could have stayed the Indians. It could have gone to the Guardians. It could have gone to any number of things.
To the tribe.
The tribe could have worked.
That's what it should have been.
I liked the Spiders. I was a big fan of the
I
Spiders.
wanted the
Yeah, they're going back to
Spiders,
the Spiders. But I understand why it was changed. I do. Because while I don't think it's rooted in hate, it still caused harm.
Where?
People, and I'm not one of them, so I cannot speak for that group of people, have obviously made claims that it is offensive. Like I can see the Chief Wahoo thing. I love the hat. I still have Chief Wahoo gear. But if it means taking that one thing away that harms other people,
So
I mean,
who-
it doesn't help me to see Chief Wahoo. It doesn't help the Guardians win games to see that. It doesn't matter what their name is to win games. And that's ultimately what we're talking about, because we're talking about a sports team. Like if we're talking about the fabric of everything, what it is, people are still, I mean, you go look at the game last night, the last couple of nights, the stadium's packed. People are rocking Guardians gear. They don't care.
No, they were all wearing
what
Indians
the-
gear.
well, Indians
The
gear,
whole
Guardians gear.
The whole conversation at the bar we were at was, look at how every person there is wearing Chief
Well,
Wahoo.
it's tough to get everybody to buy new gear.
Well, that's the thing. They're
They're not. There is an outspoken opposition to this.
I don't think that it is as high as we think it is.
I agree. Here's what I'm noticing. It's turning. The tide is turning. You go to the game, it's not all Indians gear.
Right.
But I still think that's the prominent figure. When you say that there are people harmed by this, I have to ask, who are they? And so when, you're told by the news that these people exist, but they don't exist in your life, they don't exist in your social circle, you haven't seen them in an academic space, and you haven't seen them anywhere beyond the broadcasting network telling you that this exists. So when I ask you, who are these people? We truly don't know. But for the people that they say, this is who it is, this is the victim, let's flush a few of them out. So beyond it being a handful, utilitarianism, maximizing the greatest happiness for the greatest number of people. If it's 10 people outside of a stadium of 80,000, I really don't think we've seen a loss here. On the flip side, who are the people benefiting from the victimhood card? So when we created Chief Wahoo and the Indians, it was a name created by the city. We all voted. That's what we agreed upon. It was promoted by an 8-year-old girl who wrote an expose in the news saying that we need to celebrate Louis Alexis, who was the first Native American to play in the American League and arguably the first in the MLB. So it was to commemorate a lost memory. The chief at the time, Louis Alexis, here's a character that appreciated the name, appreciated the celebration, appreciated an entire city rallying behind this monumental piece that has been forgotten. And what's laughable are the people that are the most loud calling victimhood are generationally his kin 4 or 5 generations down the line. So how is it that we have to agree that this is a significantly more welcoming and progressive community today than it has ever been? And you're going to say 5 generations down the line from the guy who it's about and was appreciative, they're a victim of this.
So a victim is, I think we're using that word in a way that we're trying to incite that they're not being harmed, at least emotionally. And that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about
how do you measure
dollars.
that harm?
You ask people, like you actually talk to these people and say, okay, this is causing detrimental effects on, you know, the way we view ourselves, because we can talk about social acts all we want, but when you really go back and look, this is a Native American man who had a massive drinking problem, was very quickly out of the league and was not on the Indians team for very long. So we're going to base our entire personality and our image based on a man who didn't have it all figured out. And now we're going to complain.
We're not even basing our image off of this man entirely. You didn't even say his name right. So I'm just saying.
That's because it's not that big of a deal.
Exactly. That was no. It's a very beautifully liberal, progressive spark that started the team. That's all I'm saying. Is this beautiful moment is what started the team. It totally evolved from him and became something totally different. But the fact is, this is a totally lost memory. We can't even say his name. And whether or not we damn the guy, right? I didn't know all of this. So I'm going to take this and try to learn more about if he had such a terrible familial record. But then again, why it's curious that the family, because I was going to make the comment of why do we look to the family then for support or not support for this team if there's this, I guess, shadowy background. I don't know if that's the case, but I want to make the point that whether or not he has that, it shouldn't take away from, again, such a beautifully progressive point that we had an evolutionary step in the game of baseball with a more welcoming, diverse community. This is what was a major step in that. And then, like I said, if it didn't build such a strong community that was so evolved beyond race and hate, you would have had a lot easier of a time to turn this off and snuff it out. You've had 4 years to get rid of the Indians, and everybody's still calling it the Indians. And when playoff time comes and everybody wants to rub their lucky gear, that entire stadium's full of Chief Wahoo. So clearly a culture was built that transcends hate. And I still want to come back to the emotional harm, because one, there's a total side point we do need to come back to. I like your point about how it doesn't have an effect on the field. That's a point we'll have to readdress. But before we get to that, the emotional harm. I'm emotionally harmed. I'm emotionally harmed that you've taken 30 years of tear-sparking moments with my father, and you're saying it's hateful. Now, that's what you're telling me. Just like but hold on. The same emotional liberal bullshit that you're inflating, you're saying my hat hurts your heart, not you. I'm just projecting this character, the victim.
Right.
But the argument says that just the image of my hat hurts you and harms you. It really like sticks and stones, but we're supposed to say emotionally. So why am I not allowed to say that, again, 4 years after, I still am bruised by the emotional pain of you calling me hateful, racist, a white pig for how long? I mean, how long do I have to live in that under that umbrella?
So when we're talking about why is it okay for them to say they're emotionally harmed and then I'm emotionally harmed because you took this away? What it sounds like is that the name is more important than the product. And that is where the problem lies, because the product, we're talking about sports teams. That's the only thing that should matter is the product. I don't care. Like I said, they could be the giant purple dildos. If the product is good, I don't care what the name is. So, okay, yes, I want it to be called this. I want things to be called a lot of things, but as long as it does what the fuck it's supposed to do, I don't care what it's called. And that's in anything.
I love that point. That is a conquering point. One thing that I want to follow up with, though, is the shadow to this is we live in Cleveland, dude.
Mm-hmm.
So the product in New England, right? They get to just go call us the purple dildos. We have the most Super Bowls, right? So our problem is we have never had a product. Our team is shit always.
Not the Guardians. Not the Guardians.
What
They
has
haven't
made,
won.
Hold on. What has made this Guardians run the most fun? We're not even supposed to be there. The fact that our salary cap, $50.8 million. We are the 4 teams competing for the World Series right now.
Oh, yeah.
The 3 other teams are the highest paid teams in baseball. The Los Angeles Dodgers, they are paying Ohtani alone $70 million. One player on the Dodgers is more than the entire Indians team. So when I say this, I go, I love your point. It's a great point. We should only care about the product. The sad part is 3 decades of pain. We've only had barely good, at best, barely good product. So the only thing we have to rally around, resonate with, and build a culture with is the name, is the colors, is the team, because the product sucks.
I disagree with you. The product has been really good for the Guardians over the last decade.
I'll give you that.
They are one of the top 5 teams in all of baseball in terms of wins and losses.
Truthfully, I think that's why it's been so hard to turn your back on the Guardians.
Because they are good. They put
agree.
a good product. Now, if we're talking about the Browns and how bad that they suck, sure, I'll hop right on that trend. But we can't do that with the Guardians. The Guardians are actually good at their fucking jobs.
I'll give you that.
They win a lot of games. They just can't get over the hump. Now, if you want to complain about something, complain about the fact that we won't spend up to $200 million because our owners won't do that. But it has absolutely nothing to do with the name. And if we're going to worry about the money aspect, sponsors are not going to want to sponsor a team that has been given the moniker that it is racist by the Indians and the Chief Wahoo. They're going to dump their dollars into the Guardians. It makes more fiscal sense, and we can put a better product on the field that way.
I can appreciate the point that you focus and rally around the product. And I think while that is the crux of this conversation, it still needs to be taken in balance with, right now, the Indians are doing good. However, when you look at the Browns, this is the worst. This is worse. We'd rather be winless. This is worse than the season we didn't win a game.
Agreed.
And yet you came in and started the episode with dire passion. Dire passion against toilet product.
Yeah.
So I have to say, it needs to be balanced with the culture. Like, there is a culture. This is when you get together with your family on Thanksgiving, the Browns are there. They're not even playing. We're not even one of the good enough teams to be blessed with the stage of Thanksgiving football. And yet when we get together and we're watching the Lions play, we're all talking the Browns. Mm-hmm. It is the centerpiece of our holidays, our family dinners, our work conversations. I mean, dude, you're not just turning. I can appreciate that not as much Cleveland Indians fans, they didn't take the narrative that this was spitting in the face of 30 years of community and calling it racist. It was spoiled brat. So I like the Indians. I have a Chief Wahoo tattooed on my calf. Like, I don't want, not me, but I'm just saying, like, theoretically, I have this. I don't want to lose. I get it. But I whether that population is small or not, it shouldn't diminish the emotional damage they take on. But also, if that was the narrative of the majority of the people who wanted to preserve the name, the team, everything, could we then agree that you aren't just turning your back on, you're not just preserving or helping these few people that are damaged by this or the victims of this oppression, but there needs to be the element of the conversation where maybe it is worth it. Maybe this is the moral value, but it is still turning the back on others that feel like this is spitting on those Thanksgiving dinners and the community you built with the workplace friends and college friends. I don't know. What are your thoughts? And then we'll get back to the heart of the conversation.
I think that in the long run, it's going to be more beneficial for them to have changed the name. They're going to get more money this way. The people that have lost, some sort of semblance, some attachment, that sucks. But you can't please everybody, right? Because you're talking about displeasing the people on the opposite side.
But they're not going to games, dude. Right?
But,
like, can we agree? You didn't buy...
The stadium has had better attendance than it's had in a long time.
Because the teams... You can't also say you can't use the
has
product
been good.
against me and then ignore how the product is drawing people back in.
Yeah.
And guess what? The people that you rolled out
Do
the
you
red
think
carpet...
that we're going to lose enough people that they won't be able to fill the stadium?
But do you think you gained those emotionally damaged...
I think they gained it in other assets. They're gonna gain it in TV revenue. They're
I
gonna
mean, they
gain
totally
it in other
gained
aspects.
it in. They gained it with the All-Star game. I mean, that's the reason it happened.
Exactly. So by doing that, they are gaining things. Sure, somebody's gonna lose something. Somebody's gonna get hurt. It's impossible to please everybody. And you, of all people, know that. Like, you guys have a show that's kind of dedicated to throwing different ideas at people. You have to be able to have a conversation, an intelligent conversation, and talk about different viewpoints, right? So that's the same concept here, in my opinion.
Here's the reality, or the realization you're making me confront. The answer to all of this, you said it without saying it, and we're here now. It's all money.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's all money.
Dollars and cents.
I think in all of these conversations I've had, I've severely underplayed how much money was at risk here. I mean, the fact that the Blue Jays, when we were in the World Series, when we went for that run of the World Series, the Toronto tried changing the law to make our logo illegal, just to F with us, so we couldn't use our jerseys and had to change our jerseys in their stadium. It was a whole thing. And the MLB was like, if you do that, we're going to remove playing at your stadium. So they didn't do that, and they allowed us to play.
But they also very specifically went through and did not say the word Indians during that. Basically, the entire series, it was the Block C that was shown and not Chief Wahoo. There was a lot of things that happened so they could do that. So they're dollars. And it sucks that we have to bring that up. But that's what this is. This is a business. We love it. Like, I'm a sports fan. I coach youth baseball. I love everything about sports. It's the great equalizer in this country. Basically, the entire world, in my opinion. Sports are amazing. But it is a business. Dollars and cents do the talking. And Guardians is going to make more money.
I can appreciate that. Doug, you were going to jump in.
No, I was you said my point. Like, main reason we actually went with this change was because they were like, we won't give you the All-Star game unless you commit to it. So conveniently, we got rid of the logo, got the All-Star game, and then conveniently changed our name.
Yeah.
Right.
So we know it's directly connected to the money. They wanted that event. They wanted that money.
And guess what? I'm just going to leave it with Michael. Just consider this. There has never been the colloquial term, money is the root of all good.
Nope. No, money is the root of all evil, and the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
It's so true.
Oh, there we go.
Save those oppressed Native Americans in Cleveland. All right, perfect transition. I want to hear your thoughts. As somebody that there's a theme that I wanted to kind of carry through this episode, and we kind of took a chunk with Cleveland here, but the theme being, there seems to be a large faction and a growing faction in our country that is increasingly less appreciative of the sacrifices members of our country have given so we could flourish and enjoy the fruits that America has to offer. And you hear so much, I hate America, I want to leave America, all of this slanderous dialogue. However, deep down, there's nowhere else to go, and no one else wants to leave here.
Correct.
You know you want to be here.
100%.
And I think I could find value in those sharp tongue statements if it was followed with action. I don't like it, but I want to change it this way, or I want to be the change in this manner. And you don't see that from these people. Most of the time, I'm going to say it, they're like, you're dealing with people that are socially isolated. I'll say it softly like that. And that's part of the problem is these people have limited exposure to tough conversations like this, to other people, to other ways of looking at things. Because of that, they live in their echo chamber and feel justified in their perspective. So to kick off this conversation, you may have seen it, probably not. This is from Charlie Kirk. I saw it this past week, and I'm not a big fan of this guy. I think
he's kind of a prick.
He is. I'm going to admit that, truly. And I got to say, where there may be political overlap in some ways, the way he defends or denies points in these debates, I really do not agree with his argument structures or his support. Like, it's like your logic, we're using different logic and sometimes come to the same place, but I don't totally agree with him. This is more of a reflection of the student trying to ask him a question.
Okay.
None of your business, unfortunately.
Okay, hello, nice to meet you. None of your business.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So, do you love America?
Yes, I do.
I hate America. I
like the mask puff.
Every state in the USA should be an independent country. What do you think of this?
That would be a fucking terrible idea.
Well, I just first have to ask, since you hate the country, do you plan to leave?
What do you mean by that?
Do you plan to go live in another country?
No, I do not.
Let me tell you something.
Your face is an idiot.
America.
I love that.
Okay, hello, nice to meet you. Let me tell you something.
Your face is an idiot.
That is a classic line.
You're an idiot. Your face is an idiot.
America is the only country where even those who hate it refuse to leave. That's how you know you live in a great country.
Can you prove that?
You.
Well, thank you. May I have a hat?
No. So let me ask you, none of your business. Who do you plan to vote for?
I plan to vote for Kamala Harris.
Why?
I mean, you answered my question, so I'm done here. Like, there are people waiting.
Can you tell me her greatest accomplishment?
No, I can't.
Can you tell me a single accomplishment?
Is it reading
I
the
cannot.
teleprompter?
I want to leave. Like.
Yeah.
So, of course, there's layers to this. And first, I want to address one of the more interesting points, and I wish you would have addressed it. That's what I'm saying is, if I had this human being in front of me, I would have addressed that dialogue in a totally different way. Probably wouldn't have been as much, there wouldn't be as much flowery love on Twitter. I'd probably get the same response, but it'd be a totally different line of thought. The first question was, every state in the USA should be an independent country. What do you think of this? And what was your response?
That's a terrible idea. That's the most asinine idea I've ever heard.
Can I be real with you? Yeah, it is. Oh my God, it is. But can I tell you, I wanted to grab my phone and just scream. I was like, we are in the most effective way to do that. I was so aggravated. Like, do you not understand the beauty of, okay, click over here to Michael real quick. All right. Yeah, that's perfect. Can we acknowledge
This is badass.
that this plot of land behind his head is like a whole continent, practically a whole continent. Okay, so now let's just say New Jersey. Okay. So let's say New Jersey had to defend itself against the whole world, and also Delaware, and also Ohio, and also do you understand having the largest military defense in the world comes with the United Independent Countries? Like, we're independent countries. You can go do mushrooms in Colorado, get arrested right next door, and then go get pot at the next country. And then guess what? You could get married at 16 in the hills, and you can't even get close to that over in New York. So there's this wide array of different laws. I've told this before. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse, but when I was in property course for the first time in law school in Pennsylvania, they're trying to figure out who has property claim over a deer. If you shoot a deer on this property and it moves onto someone else's property, who has claim to it, that whole deal. And I raise my hand and I go, what happens if you had a salt lick on your property? And this girl literally lost her shit. You can't do that. That's totally illegal. And I'm sitting there like, listen, lady, I'm from Ohio where like every other house has a salt lick.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to law school there, all it did was push me back to Ohio because their laws make no sense. They're a commonwealth. It's dumb. So I only say that because they love it. You go there, they're like, we love our commonwealth. Keep it. It's all yours. And I can go back to Ohio. If I liked it, I could have stayed. That's the beauty of the United Independent Countries is we're still unite. We're losing that aspect of like, if you don't like it here, go somewhere else. It doesn't have to be Canada. But see, the only reason I have to go to Canada is because the only way because my will is illogical, the only way I see it reflected is if I like steal it. And that's the unhealthy balance we're dealing with in our country is that person we just saw is never going to convince me to wear a mask.
No.
Is never going to convince me that we should be different countries. And what was the other point? And he's never going to convince me that America's the worst and it's worth hating. So the sad part is, even if there was logical justification to whatever his point is, they don't even have the strong ability to communicate it and like deal with a difficult conversation to defend it. But the sad part is you're dealing with people that truly, why are you supporting blue team? And he's like, I don't know. It's like
fucking told me to.
If you ask me any reason for anything my heart follows, I will give you a reason. And I'm hoping if it's coming from a place of ignorance, you are not. I'm hoping I'm finding people that are not coming from places of ignorances so you can liberate me.
Yes.
Give me some of the truth.
Please tell me I'm wrong so I can take this
grow.
new information and grow on this information. Even if it's information that I don't fucking like, I'll take the new information and figure out, okay, how do I use this? What's right? What's wrong? You can either get new information or you can continue to be stupid.
Right.
Even if it flies in your face. So I guess talking about this young man and a little bit of context here, obviously, Mike Carlisle, No Sleeps Network, Army veteran, 8.5 years. I'm also a college student right now at Cleveland State University.
Oh, awesome.
And I'm going to school for a film degree. So I don't think I need to describe too much what that environment is probably like.
Exactly.
There are some people that are very much like the young man that we just saw in this video. What doesn't happen here, or I think in a lot of places now, is we don't go and search out additional information. We are fed information, and we take that information at its face value. You have to get that information, but just because you hear information doesn't mean that information is accurate, doesn't mean that that's what you should believe. It is simply information. You have to actually develop a process. You have to take information in. You take it in from multiple sources, right, left, red, blue, green, anywhere in between. You have to collect all this information. And then from there, hopefully, your parents or your teachers or whoever is involved in your life has taught you some sort of process to do some critical thinking and be like, okay, so I have all this based on this and my moral compass. This is what I think. And that doesn't happen. I heard this, so I regurgitate it. I want to be part of the conversation, so I say things. I need to get in there somehow. But we don't know how to be a part of that conversation. Everybody wants to be a part of it, but they just are doing it to do it.
I love that point because it's never been spoken so strictly and clearly, but that you nailed it. We don't seek information and we're only fed information. And the other aspect is we've built this recoil and an inability to be wrong. Like the saddest part is the smarter you get, the more you realize how little you know about the world.
And the more wrong you're going to be, the more you learn.
Bingo. And so that's why philosophically, normally, the the smartest people will be the first to tell you how dumb they are because they have the greatest handle on how little they know. And so the sad part is it's really stupidity that defends ignorance. You fear being wrong. You fear being seen as being ignorant and as dumb. And really, that's the only way you grow. So not only are they fed the information, but then when that information is confronted in the environment, like you said, I learned this talking point and I just want to be able to use it in a social setting. Now we're at the coffee table at work and I go, and you
insert talking point from Team Blue, insert talking point from Team Red, and now I'm part of it.
Exactly. And the sad part is when somebody in your environment is like, well, honestly, there's a little bit more nuance to that point, and they start pressing it, you short circuit because that point you just shouted wasn't rooted and embedded in some other form of logic or fact in your head that you could go, well, the reason I say that is because it follows this train of thought. You literally don't know where that came from or why you said it or why it's even applicable to this conversation. So when it's confronted, one, the person across from you immediately othered. Oh, you don't know how to speak the code. Boom. And I also break. I don't know how to think beyond this point. The sad part is most people should, when confronted with that experience, realize, like you did, the point you said to me about Louis Sockalexis, I now have to leave this conversation and do more research on that guy. Like, I can't have a conversation where I had one understanding of him. My outside environment exposes me to something else, and I just ignore that. Continue to go on like he's some hunky-dory, happy father man.
Because that's what helps fit the narrative that you've created in your head that makes you feel comfortable. People are not comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's a shame because that's really where we see the most growth from ourselves professionally, emotionally, all of that is by forcing uncomfort and learning how to be comfortable in those situations.
No, you're so right. I love that. And continuing through the dialogue, I want to get to the point where, so you hate the country. Why won't you leave? What do you mean by that? And well, everybody that says that won't leave. So clearly this is a great country. Well, can you prove that? You're standing here and you won't leave. What are your thoughts on because I want to get to the conversation of like what it's been like life after service, getting back to civilian life. You're probably looking at some of these ungrateful bastards around you, but I'm sure you've also seen glimmers of like appreciative civilians that don't take lightly the sacrifice you've given. So what has that been like acclimating back into the civilian life, also balancing it with now how our social community has evolved?
Gosh, so my exit from the military was a very, very simple transition because I went from 8.5 years in the Army, being a flight instructor at my unit, and then I parlayed that into a job as a government contractor working for Textron, who could fuck off. And it was simple because I was still in the military. Essentially, I could grow a beard and I could grow my hair out, but every day I'd go in, I would be in a tie and pants, standing in front of a classroom, and I'm speaking to soldiers and I'm dealing with soldiers every single day. That's all my job was instructing soldiers. So it was this super, super simple process until I left that job and I came all the way out here back to Ohio. Because now I'm not in a military town. I'm not every day seeing and interacting with military people. So when I walk into a room, I'm like, what's up, you motherfuckers? Everybody's like, who is this ignorant asshole? Or if I do that with people that I have been training or working with in the military, it's like, oh, what's up, dickhead? Like, that's kind of how that operation flows. You're hard on each other. Everybody's your brother. Right. Even when I was a civilian contractor, I could give the new soldiers a little bit of shit because I had been there and I had done that. We had that shared experience. The lack of shared experience when I truly left is where the hard part has been, I would say. But kind of what we want to do at the No Sleeves Network is be that bridge between the military and the civilian. We want to talk the same way we talk. We're not going to edit. We're not going to water down. We have people that are super pro orange guy. We have some people that are pro 32 days lady. And everywhere in between. So we're not going to filter anything. You're going to be allowed to say what you want and put on your tinfoil hat. But we need to be able to speak the way we speak, show that to everybody else. And we're going to find a common ground somewhere. They might not necessarily love everything that we do or the way we speak or anything about that. But we want to create content that everybody can consume from a lens that it doesn't really get represented all the time. We see the military everywhere. It's we appreciate our troops. Let's do this. Let's hold a flag and let's honor these guys in uniform. Well, there are 19 million veterans in this country. And the only time that we see them is when we're putting them in uniform to go and trot them out there and display them.
That's crazy.
Right? I mean, can you tell me another
No, you're
time?
100% right. You're really resonating with me.
So to have veterans out in the open, out have a voice, and there's a lot of veteran content creators. What we want to do is try to bring a network together and have that group of people speak for themselves the way they would speak and project that to the masses, because there will be people where we can bridge that gap. So that 18-year-old kid in my production class and I are going to be able to have a conversation because we have seen each other. We have talked to each other and we've been able to be ourselves and have a conversation, even though we're different.
That's the greatest part, because one of the things I've flushed out a lot recently in the podcast, not the other shows we've been doing, but the podcast, I've been able to get a lot of variety in terms of across the political spectrum. And one of the pieces I continue to flush out is the more you talk to people that are quote unquote on the other team, the more you realize we pretty much agree on everything. And it all just boils down to the nuance. We just don't talk enough to flush out those nuances. And, I put a clip up and somebody very quickly was like, you don't get it, dude. Abortion and everything else isn't very nuanced. It's pretty black and white. You're either on one side or the other. It's like, no, not really, dude. It actually is a very nuanced, specifically something like that. Like, you don't realize, buddy, that you've got people that are voting along with you that work at Planned Parenthood. Like, yeah, they may agree with you to a certain extent. Like, yeah, no, we shouldn't be doing it at 8-9 months, but it doesn't mean we shouldn't be doing it at all. Oh, there's the nuance.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't an on and off switch, all or nothing. And every topic is like that. One of the most unfortunate parts of how our political system is created is it's binary. We need to break the binary, because do you understand there's more than two issues, right? It is not just abortion.
It's not guns and abortion.
Yeah, right? Like, it's not one or the other. You've got the economy, you've got education, you've got climate change. Go down the list. And so every single one of those, your heart goes red, red, blue, blue, red, red, blue, blue. You're a mix of them. Mm-hmm. And for you to pick the team at the end of the road, you go, out of all these ones, red, 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 blue, 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 red, which is the few that is the most important to my life right now? Mm-hmm. And those topics are the ones that are going to end up being what dictates your vote. But it isn't that team is a full representation of you and your character. And I think that moderate human being is pretty much the majority, if not all of us.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think the moderate is definitely where the vast majority lies. We have our hard right, we have our hard left, but most everything is somewhere in the middle, because I have right-leaning things that I believe. I have left-leaning things that I believe. I am staunchly in my belief that I am neither on Team Blue or on Team Red. I would rather just throw those colors out completely and pick some new ones if I had my way about it. But that's not where we're at right now. That's not going to happen. So you kind of have to work within the minutia.
I love that. And so we often present the same goal or yeah, we often present the same goal as you suggest, which is I'm not trying to get you to agree with me. That's not the intention here.
Right.
But if I can at the very least build an understanding. You don't have to agree with why I believe what I do, but if at least you could come from a place of, well, I understand why he comes from that place. That way you don't other me. It doesn't become like, well, we could collect them and put them in a camp and re-educate them because I'm not you. I'm not human. See how that it very quickly goes down that line. And how does these things happen? Like, how does it get, we've seen the end of the road, the tragedies it leads to, but we don't see the little seedlings that create it. And I love something you said. And I think we did isolate what that is. The little seedling that either you could snuff this problem out or will grow to be the big problem at the end of the road. It's this lack of shared experience. You can very easily say, Black people X. If you don't hang out and meet Black people, see how that works? That there was somebody in my law school that was like, we need this friend of mine. She was like, we need to just snuff out all racism, like just fight it, the anti-racism approach. And I made the point where I go, really, that's less important than exposure. If you have a person or experience, like you said, shared experience, if you have a kid that comes home to a racist dad that's like, Asians are the worst, Asians are the worst, Asians are the worst, and you go to school and you go to work and you get out of the house and you start exposing yourself to these people, very quickly you're going to get a balance of the experience. I've met Kevin, Bob, and Joe, and and my dad is telling me this, and none of my experiences are matching what my dad says. Very quickly you realize Dad is the one rooted in ignorance. And the only way you can transcend that hold, that perspective, is through exposure, through experience. And we need to be reminded what unites us. Yes, we are all individual countries, but we've lost the aspect of one. And it's because we're not experiencing each other anymore. We're plugged into our Xboxes. We're experiencing the world through our iPhones. And if I go and try to talk to a stranger at the bar, it's a microaggression. And we've gotten to a point where strangers can't even bump shoulders and just share a yuck because you're gonna say something I don't like, or you have negative intentions or an alternate agenda. And we're increasingly becoming isolated, not having those shared experiences.
Yeah, we have lost the ability to communicate effectively as a country with one another. We are too concerned with if what I say is going to get me in trouble or if I am going to hurt someone. Being offended is a good thing. You're allowed to be offended. And if you are being offended, you are hearing a viewpoint that does not align with yours. Being offended's fucking good for you.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. It comes back to, I'm going to say it. It's a name that's going to make you cringe. But, Jordan Peterson says it best, where it's like, you have the right. You had said it. I might emotionally damage you. Right. You have the right to have those feelings. But that also doesn't mean you have the right to control my tongue or control these experiences. If you don't want me saying the word retard, then you better do a damn good job to convince me of it. And the sad part is you going, but I'm hurt. That actually didn't do it. But the person I have a friend whose brother had cerebral palsy. And when he sits down and explains to me his experiences, I understand how it makes him feel.
There you go.
And that makes me reconsider its usage. Now, through 30 years of friendship, you can develop a relationship where he now, through a dialogue, who used to be a friend that said, really don't say it around me. And then he saw that all of our friends, we use it. Sorry. And when we were around him, we consciously tried not to use it. And if I slipped and I was like, stop being a retard to somebody else, and I was like, oh, shit, I'm really sorry. After enough of time of us trying to do our effort, and at least, you know what, you made an acknowledgement of how it makes me feel. And him realizing that when you're saying it to our dumbass friend who forgot his phone at home, it's not because you're
Right.
referencing my brother and you're trying to degrade my at-home experience. This is something totally removed. And as we were able to kind of, through exposure, remove those two and make two separate, he changed, I changed, we have a different perspective, right? But you have to be able to articulate yourself and have that uncomfortable conversation. If Chief Wahoo is making you hurt internally right now, you have to crawl through like Shawshank Redemption, crawl through the tube of shit and describe to me why and convince me you're hurt. Because right now I'm not. Right now I think you're a bitch. And so it's up to you to convince. And if you can't, then you're a bitch. Then you're a dude with long hair suffocating through a mask. That's what I'm seeing.
Right.
Convince me you're not that. And the sad part is we're looking at an entire sector that can't, I'm going to say won't. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. They're just refusing to play ball. And I think it's because they can't. I think it's because they're not rooted in logic. If they were, they'd be able to contend, but they can't. So I know it's a long diatribe, but it's because we've lost that shared experience. Yeah. And you got to crawl through the tunnel of shit if you're going to get to the beach at the end of the tunnel.
I absolutely agree. But the problem is we're not seeking out those opportunities. It's hard. We are not comfortable being uncomfortable. We are not willing to step outside of that comfort zone. And that it is a real shame. And it's something that has kind of progressed last decade, I feel like, that we are just so entrenched that it's got to be this way, one way. We talked about it before. We want to be a part of the conversation. And we don't care how the hell we're doing it. We just got to be in there because don't let anybody find out. I might not know what I'm talking about. I promise you come and talk to me anytime. It might even happen during this show. You ask me a question and I don't know. I'm going to tell you, I have no fucking idea. I'm not going to sit here and try and blow smoke up somebody's ass. I'm just going to say, I don't know. And sure. I mean, give me your viewpoints. Tell me what you're thinking. I don't necessarily agree with you because I have no idea what the fuck we're talking about. Let me go back and look and see what we're talking about. I don't need to be a part of that conversation. That shit's not for me. Not everything is for everybody.
But I love that. And I think it's because we're so plugged in and we're being exposed and beaten down with every topic all day. You got to have
an opinion. You have to. What if I ask you this? What is your answer? Fuck, I don't know. I haven't thought about it. Like what? I don't need to have an answer for everything.
I love that.
My experience is my experience. I want to share my experience so I can build relationships with other people. But my experience is not other people's experience. And we're losing the sight of that. So, well, I thought that this. Well, you're you and I'm me, and situations are situational.
Right. And here's the saddest part. It comes full circle back to your other point. We're not seeking information. We're being fed it. And so in a world where you're supposed to have an opinion on every single topic, this comes back to a theme I say all the time on the show. And it's everybody wants a political opinion, but nobody wants to do the political homework. And so when you're scrolling on Facebook and look for this now, on Facebook, you'll get to an article and it'll say, North Korean relations have escalated. 3-minute read. Here's the rude awakening, folks. Our global relationship with North Korea is not a 3-minute read. And so, we're just title surfing. That's how we get our information. Mm-hmm. I read the title, Orange Man Bad, and I'm going to ride this wave to the end of the earth. And again, through experience, you grow. It's very frustrating how many article titles are reneged upon by the last sentence. You will read an article title, go through the entire article, and the last sentence is like, yeah, well, we didn't really mean that. It's this. And you're like, how can you legally do that? And that's like all of media today. And so you don't even get that experience of frustration and build the muscle of how to kind of jump those hurdles until you start walking the lane, until you start reading these things. You're going, that's another piece of BS. And that's another. And then I found the fruit. Okay, so now I see the resources and avenues that I actually find the most truth in. Well, that's where I'm going to put more of my attention than wasting it on reels or whatever it is.
Right.
And so, one, it's how we get it. It's work.
It
And
is.
so you look at a fat person, they look at you and say, this is my truth. And the truth is, it's because you don't want to go work out. Like, it would be your truth if running every day and not eating the Big Mac still made you look that way. We know that isn't the fact. I'm big, and it's because I know what made me big. I enjoyed every bite that got me here. But I'm not living in some delusional reality that this is just my truth. If I did everything I was supposed to do, I would still look this way. That's not the truth. So, one, we create these echo chambers, and we don't want to take the exercise. Yes, I have to bench to keep my chest low, and I also have to read books to keep my brain sharp, or read articles to stay in the loop of what's going on in the political arena. Now, love my sister to death. She's a pharmacist. She's definitely the smartest person in our family. At the same time, she's not that politically embedded. And so it's one of those, if you're going to be that person, like you said, live your life and you'll build your own lexicon and understanding through that experience. You're okay to live that life insofar as you don't allow yourself to speak out of ignorance. You made the greatest point. When you're reaching a point where you don't know what I don't know, say that. Because one, open up the opportunity to know. Open this door for me, friend. We're in a conversation. But also, when you start pretending you do when you don't, you're creating a different muscle where you are defending ignorance, and you'll never grow. And we're seeing that's the increasing problem. Wrapping this thought and tossing it back to you. You saying we're not seeking these conversations. I got to tell you, one of the hardest things about this show is we're going to challenge. I loved that you pushed back on a fun topic that we find dear to this show. And you've opened my eyes to a few things, and clearly the basis of it, we don't agree, but I think I got a lot from it, and it built a great conversation.
Agreed.
That was something about something as so trivial as a baseball team name. Now, what if we wanted to talk about truly like something like abortion? You would be amazed how hard it is. Like, there is a faction of people that I look at their political route, and I think the way they're marching is in ignorance. I think they're wrong. The fact that I have an impossible time. It's very difficult to get that faction to sit down and talk about these topics. Like, they'll go to my job and try to get me fired at the court because I'm a transphobe. But then when I ask them to have a constructive conversation, a dialogue, liberate me from my ignorances, baby, for some reason, they refuse to do so. And so if you are so righteous in the light of truth, why can't you shine a little bit my way? It seems like you're defending it.
We have to be right. We cannot be wrong. And if I help you, then I am giving power to somebody who might not side with me. Right? If I have this conversation.
That's so insane to me that you're platforming them. The fact that we created that.
I'm helping you learn something, but your ignorance, I don't like it. So rather than put you on, I would rather stand on your neck because that makes me taller.
Can I use a real life example to trample on that point?
Yeah.
Do you recall that episode probably 10 months ago, if not sooner, when Kanye just went off the rails and he's just spouting out about Israel and everything else? The internet knew who Nick Fuentes was. I didn't know who that cat was. Like, that dude did not exist in my orbit until Kanye started going crazy on all these podcasts. The internet tells us he's this crazy Nazi internet character. He comes on all these shows, and immediately I'm turned off from him. It's just like, this dude is crazy. Like, even if he might say one or two things that you're like, everything, you're just like, the package it comes in, and most of the truths you hold are just wrong. It comes through, again, this exposure. We live in a world where we can't platform him. Look what you did. But if you don't, he's just going to brew in his own little corner of the internet. And
in that echo chamber.
Exactly. And the best way to flush it out is shine light right on that.
Yeah.
Like what is something, at least the circle of my friends, we say this all the time, but people always exclaim how you'll never beat the internet. Internet always wins.
Mm-hmm.
The meme culture, the jokes, my wife got hit outside a bar. Who's this guy? They'll have his name, social security number, and place of business immediately. The internet doesn't lose. So I feel like in a world like that, total exposure will always win. If he's spouting truth, platforming him will grow him. And maybe that's why you don't want to platform him, because it's kind of true. Not Nick Fuentes, just a character.
Right.
But Nick Fuentes specifically, if you just shine the light on him and give him that exposure, he's dead before he even gets off the ground.
Right. Absolutely. So and I love that point, because the only way to deal with problems, whether you want to call it a problem or not, depending on what side of the aisle you're on, you'll probably call it one way or the other, is to attack the problem. Bad news doesn't get better with time. Like, it just keeps growing and it keeps growing and it keeps growing. So just attack shit head on, deal with it. And it's so easy for me to say this. I feel like this is a very veteran-centric military thing. Like, okay, I have this fucking problem. Okay, well, I have to deal with this problem. I can't do anything else until I deal with this. Like this, I'm gonna prioritize this. I'm gonna figure this out, and I'm gonna go and make it work. Like, you gotta attack the problem. You can't ignore the problem. The problem just gets worse.
So that's a great point too. And that's the saddest part, is when you are living in a world where you have all these problems, right? Like the microaggression hurts my feelings. Well, you're doing nothing to combat that microaggression beyond
Crying.
Silencing them, right? Like,
Crying
I want them
and
to
whining.
lose their job, get a detention, whatever it is. You're waiting for the state to police this for you. And if you were coming from such a place of truth, you should be able to defeat it autonomously. I don't want to beat this dead horse too much, because I think we've flushed out a truth here, and it's that one, through community and experience, a lot of these issues can be addressed. I think the reason why they're flourishing, if not ever expanding, it's because our world is getting increasingly isolated with technology. And like I said, the fact that we're on buses and we're all just kind of looking down at her, like, nobody used to be, people would talk to the lady next to them. And there's zero shared experiences. I like a theme that we've kind of carried through this whole episode, which is, I can respect wanting to create a community that cares about people's feelings, but wanting to make a safe environment to where we aren't emotionally damaging people. And so just take like coaching. You're a coach.
Yes.
And so I'm sure you've seen that some of the disciplinary coaching practices you experienced in your youth probably weren't as productive, and you're probably not using them in your, we had a coach that would like beat us with our players' inhalers and cleats. It was, but at the same time, some of it built character. Like, again, Doug and I have a shared experience with a slew of friends that we all played football with. And that's kind of why they do that. So there's a balance to, like, that when there is a why, you see the value, but sometimes the why is like, hey, listen, old geezer, you're a little skewed on that point. So I flip it to you with this. When you can create a point that you go, you know what, I respect that this creates harm, not physical harm, but emotional harm. But then also, we don't want to walk that road too much to where things that truly aren't harmful you are saying is, right? So like a coach that belittles you, you fat little tubster, like that's
That's bad.
jacked up.
Yeah.
So we need to stop that. But then when you walk that road too much and a kid goes, fuck you, coach, and you go take a lap. And now that kid can go to the mom who's going to go to the athletic director and your ass is on the grill. Like, did that emotionally damage the kid? Well, my kid was isolated by himself and he got ridiculed by the team because he was the only one running, but it was for his own good.
Mhm.
So we're losing that because, yes, there are instances where there's real emotional damage, but it's totally overblown and it's snowballing to a point where not real emotional damage is being encompassed with that. And now we don't know where to draw the line.
I agree with you. And I've seen this a lot in my youth coaching, especially here in Ohio. When we got here, we had just come from Arizona a few years ago. My son showed up after had just left Arizona. Baseball season had like middle of rec baseball season. We had just finished a travel season before that, rolled right into rec and then moved out here and showed up. And this league was playing in rules that we were playing in 2 years prior. So we're farther ahead.
Right, exactly.
And I show up and I am the loud dad and I'm coaching and my son is playing baseball, playing real baseball.
Heaven forbid.
And there are parents that are like, they're not happy. The coach on the opposing team is crying foul. So that's when I was like, I'm definitely going to be a coach in this league and I'm going to bring some of this hard work to this league. I've had a lot of parents come up and thank me that I was surprised about. I've had a lot of kids say that they only want to play for me. I coach them hard. I will yell at them. I will make them run. I am hard
for a reason.
And that's the problem that I think that we see in our country, in life, especially in youth sports. You talked about it, the why. We're not giving them the why. Yeah. We're just saying, do it. Because we've become so ingrained that we see things and we just boom. I know that now. I react, I do things and everything's good. If you don't know the why for why you're doing shit, you're just pissing in the wind.
Dude, you've really hit something there because it transcends just sports and like the physical, like math. How many kids say I hate math? And the truth
mine
is,
for sure.
all of them. And the truth is, it's because we really have lost. I mean, we were told it a lot as kids, but you really don't see it as much anymore. It was always harped that the why is because we're never going to use geometry proofs. It's like, no, you're not. But the why is we're teaching you how to learn something that's foreign to your physical reality right now. Mm-hmm. This is an imaginary concept to your understanding right now. It's totally new to you, outside of your understanding. Right. And we need you to learn how to learn. It doesn't matter what it is, but this thing we're teaching you is we're teaching you how to learn, and we've lost that. So I think just like with sprints on a field, I'm not making you run because I love watching you run, or that's just what we do now. I need to fill up 10 minutes, but it's because you failed to not jump off the ball when we snapped the ball, or you struck out in our scrimmage today, right? You're not going to make people run. You guys
got tired in the 6th inning and we gave up several runs, which means we couldn't finish an entire game and be at our best. So you know what you need to do? You need to run so we can condition. So what you're going to do? You're going to run and you're going to hate it, but you're going to fucking do it anyways because it's good for you, even though it's hard and it sucks.
Can I tell you, this is why you'll succeed in life, and this is why you're building great things around you. Something we've lost as a community and just as a society is, what did you just say? You were outbeat. You were out, and you didn't have the endurance. You were outplayed. You were beaten. Mm-hmm. The superior team won. That means they didn't get as tired. They could throw harder. They could run faster.
They could finish. They were able to finish all the way through.
And so now we have built this community of those kids on the outs, looking at the ones that have, right? They want that. I want to be number one. I want to win the championship. And unfortunately, what we've trained them and taught them is, well, we could just give that to you because we just give everything to everybody.
Mhm.
And so when you're scrolling on Instagram and you're going, well, all day, every day, I want those cars. I want those girls. I want that community. I want the money and all these things, the house and all this stuff, the pool, the vacations. And this used to be the land of opportunity because the people that were creating and capitalizing on those opportunities realized for you to achieve them, you have to do the thing.
Mhm.
And these people are going, I want this, but I also don't want to have to do all the waking hours. And here's what'll suck is if in 30 years you look at what this has become and you go, well, I want that. And I want to look at you and go, where were you at 3 a.m. every night when I had to go work my other 8 hours a day? Where were you at 3 a.m. editing this thing? But you deserve a piece. You deserve a piece of the pie. This comes back to something Joe Rogan said when I was in law school that sat with me for a while. And it's a tough conundrum because I will be an advocate for capitalism. I will say that competition is what fuels growth and evolution.
Mhm.
Technologically, medically, all of our growth and evolution is based on competition, and that competition needs to be balanced with incentive. Ours in this community, financial incentive. But like Joe Rogan said in a conversation of like Jeff Bezos, right? You're looking at somebody where all the money's kind of polarized now in one place. The guy who made the game Monopoly to show if you play the game or the system of capitalism out to its totality, it always ends with one person having everything. So that is an unfortunate reality to this. That's why you got to have some kind of hybrid system that keeps that in check and in balance. But this is that conundrum he presents. How do you look at somebody like Jeff Bezos and go, all right, folks, the name of the game today is Monopoly, and here are the rules. And we lay out the rules, and we're all playing a game. And you're now dealing with the cat that did the best at the game. He fucking won the game, and he's got all the stuff.
Mhm.
You can't look at the people. You can't take all the fruits of the game, right? Just the marketing system he's built will change our world.
Mhm.
But let's just say, medical evolution and technological evolution that has come from this capitalistic game surrounding this man or just our community. And now the one guy that has all the things, we got all the benefits. We don't have polio anymore,
Right.
and we can have vaccines and everything. But now the guy that won the game, that created all this for us, yeah, we're gonna take all this shit away from him, or we're gonna take half, or we're taking a chunk. Like that ain't fair either.
Mhm.
You can't penalize the person who's best at the game you created.
Right.
So one. I guess the real takeaway is we got to reevaluate the damn game because you can't damn those that are winning. But clearly, if a winner can win at such a degree that it just sucks you dry, then clearly something needs to be changed here or addressed here. This isn't a total system.
Yeah, gosh, there was a lot there. It's okay. I'm gonna get that. So there was one point that you brought up about people wanting different things, and I want this. They have this. I saw these guys do this. I want this. Right. I heard something really poignant the other day from Nick Saban of all people. I'm a huge sports guy. Said you can either suffer from discipline or you can suffer from disappointment.
Oh,
If you're gonna be good at anything, it's going to take discipline. You're going to sacrifice things in your discipline. You're not going to go out with your friends, and you're not going to drink a 12-pack, and you're not going to go out to this game. You're going to stay home, and you're going to work on this project. And you're going to do all these things. So you can suffer from your discipline, or you can suffer from your disappointment because you lacked discipline earlier on.
Man. Truthfully, that is the perfect bow to this entire dialogue. Yeah. It's a perfect response. I can appreciate that. Michael, I appreciate you also giving me your time. It's very valuable for you to give me your time and also use it in such a way where we can get a little uncomfortable and find something
fun.
A bit productive. That being said, my friend, tell them where they can find you. Tell them where they can find your shows.
All right. So I am CEO, founder of the No Sleeves Network. You can find our website, nosleevesnetwork.com. It'll have links to all of our podcasts, all of our channels. We have 2 podcasts, the Linemen Lounge and the Talk. The Talk is more of a military-centric style show. Kind of recreates those times when you're at work and you're bullshitting with your buddies when there are no details just yet. We have a couple of video game streams, the Trauma Romeo Gaming and Norsky Gaming. We have a food review channel, the Vanilla Gorilla. And we actually had a movie that's screened out at a film festival out in New Jersey that was completed as a project for the No Sleeves Network in my school. All of that can be found at nosleevesnetwork.com. Every single one of those things also has a YouTube page and social medias, and we're on all social media. So we are everywhere. We try to be everywhere as much as we can without inundating the people with so much shit that they're like, I can't stand this guy anymore.
I love that. So be sure to check them out. Again, thank you for your time. Guys, we go, this is every Wednesday. So plan on the podcast coming at you every Wednesday, 6 a.m. Eastern time. We appreciate you giving us your time. If we made you laugh, if we made you think, the best thing you could do to support the show is share this episode. There's algorithms that are just wanting to suffocate and stifle out these types of dialogues, and the best you could do to support that is share the link. If you liked it, that means someone else will too, so be sure to spread that around. Otherwise, you could find all of our content. Doug and I, we do our live shows on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., the Rethink Tank podcast live, but then we also do our Sunday show where we just get into crazy internet videos and then follow it up with our football show. You can find all of that in one central place, and that's at our website at www.rethinktankpodcast.com. But otherwise, guys, we'll catch you on the next episode. Peace. My friend. Thank you. It's fun. It was a blast. And then I would like to pick your brain real quick on drones.
For sure, yeah.
If you don't mind.
Not at all. I do.
You golf, man?
So I do golf. I'm